Appalachia are an ideal place to live and raise a family. Nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains is Mountain Town, a small town with a population of 18,834, according to the U.S. Census. That number does not take into account the large university student population, who also calls the town home and doubles its size. The university is the town's largest employer. Mountain Town has a history of being a safe refuge, a gem hidden away in the mountains. It was a British settlement during the American Revolution and served as a Confederate home guard camp during the Civil War. Today, the town is a thriving community and tourist attraction, an economic hub of the region. Due to its university, business, and tourism, Mountain Town is attracting a more diverse population, which has grown 10% since 2010. An increasing ethnically diverse and immigrant population now make up its demographic. The town has opened its arms to this emerging population, but not without hesitation, trepidation, and resentment. For a town that has historically prided itself in being hidden, it can no longer hide from these new outsiders. The intertwined relationship that forms between the dominant white class and the new ethnically diverse population can be both beautiful and ugly. How can the two coexist in a way that mutually edifies and equalizes? For the purpose of this research, the perspective of the outsider population is central. The focus of the research aims to explore how immigrant or ethnically diverse children practice and retain their cultural identity apart from the local culture within the Appalachian community. I would like to conduct a critical qualitative research design in order to understand how these children perceive and engage in their cultural identity that includes a participatory action research project in the community. My interest in this town began 5 years ago when my family and I became residents. We relocated to Mountain Town for my husband's work, and I found employment at the university, first as a children's art instructor at the Community Arts Center, and then as an adjunct instructor of graphic arts and imaging technology. My own children attend school in town. On several occasions, my children have been the receivers of racially insensitive remarks and downright bullying. One of my sons was told that he could not be a part of a group because, quote, "you're Chinese," unquote. I'm Chinese American and my husband is white. I have also heard racial remarks yelled at me while driving through my neighborhood. These incidents brought back childhood memories as an immigrant in a small town in Texas. Other children would ask me if I knew karate and would slant their eyes at me with their fingers when they saw me. I was surprised to see similar struggles 20 to 30 years later in another small town and would like to explore this cultural tension further. My tendency as a child was to assimilate to the local culture and forego my own ethnic culture, which quickly became my parents' culture and not mine. Should that be the aim of our children, to assume the major popular culture of their community context? As I spent time with recent immigrants and non-white residents of Mountain Town, I heard a similar refrain of feeling isolated and oppressed. The university has several diversity initiatives, including diversity education workshops and a diversity celebration established in 2002. One of its goals is to increase awareness and appreciation of multiculturalism between its campus and the community. But even at the university level, during a recent student protest, one minority student said, "I have felt isolated, unheard, out of place, outnumbered." The town, however, provides few multicultural events that are not affiliated with the university. The 2017 Cultural and Music Summer lineup includes Highland Games and Gathering of Scottish Clans, bluegrass folk music concerts, Revolutionary War outdoor drama, a beer festival, and a human power festival with origins from the country of Colombia, but that cultural aspect is not emphasized at all in the event. The largest elementary school in town hosts an international art night once a year. I was influenced by the qualitative case study, "The Role of the School in the Assimilation of Immigrant Children," a case study of Arab Americans by Enomoto and Baer. They explored the issue of assimilation of immigrant students in an American Midwestern high school with a high population of mostly Arabic background immigrants. The researchers were motivated by their own backgrounds as a third-generation Asian American and as a recent immigrant from India. their finding indicated that the school did replicate societal class structure, keeping the majority of immigrant students in vocational career tracks and assimilating them into the overall culture. Due to my background as a second-generation immigrant and as a visual arts instructor, my research question will include the practice of art making in the context of an art studio. Since my struggles originated as a child and I have observed similar obstacles for my own children, I will include children, families, and the community as part of a participatory action research project in the community, which will be in the form of a collaborative art project. I will adopt the case study example, but select a few students who represent the immigrant or ethnically diverse population rather than observe a few school classrooms. I presently teach a Chinese language and art class to mostly immigrant and second-generation Chinese children. The case study class will be taught in a similar format in the same location at my home studio. The following video clip gives more background to the Chinese class. Chinese is my comfort language. My first memory as an immigrant kid is of sitting on a box in Chinatown eating sweet tofu and peanut soup. When I hear the Chinese language, it brings me back to that place, the taste, the sights, and the smells, and it makes me proud of who I am as an immigrant. I get the blessing of being exposed to two cultures, and that's what I want to instill in my children. As a Chinese American, I don't want them to feel that they are half Chinese and half American, or half Asian and half Caucasian. They are 100% of both. I started a Chinese language and art class for that reason, so that my kids would love the Chinese language and culture, and so that all kids would love it. In light of the context, my research question more specifically is, how do immigrant or ethnically diverse children use art to practice and retain their cultural identity apart from the local culture within the Appalachian community? How will participation in an after-school cultural arts class affect this identity? The study is qualitative in nature because it seeks to uncover the meanings that immigrant or ethnically diverse children and families make about their lives. It focuses on how they process their cultural backgrounds while living in Mountain Town. Some of the ways to assess the research problem are addressed in Table 2.1 in Qualitative Research and Practice by Sharon Merriam. I, as the researcher, bring my own subjectivity and experience as a second-generation immigrant, mother, and visual arts instructor. I'm also an outsider, but I have lived in the U.S. and even in Mountain Town longer than many other outsiders. It would also be helpful to bring in another researcher with a similar background, or utilize the aid of a translator when needed. Merriam worked with Muhammad, a Malay Muslim, in her research on older adults in Malaysia. This will help to triangulate data. Since the process is inductive, patterns and themes will emerge as data is collected. I will ask students and families to review transcripts for member checks. I'll also ask the other researcher to review and compare data results for peer review. Detailed descriptions of class conversations, quotes from individual interviews with students and family members, and observations of art classes and cultural activities will be recorded and included in the presentation. The study is ethnographic in nature since it seeks to understand the cultural characteristics of a group of people. It has a phenomenological aspect in that it aims to capture the essence of their experience. And finally, it's a case study since it looks at one particular group of students in a specific context. The study is a critical research because it uncovers social structures that limit our ways of thinking and being in the world. I will select a small sample size of 7 recent immigrant or ethnically diverse children as part of a focus group. All children are students at the largest public elementary school in town. They are 9 to 12 years old and recently completed either 4th or 6th grade. There are 3 males and 4 females. Billy is a recent immigrant from China who just finished 5th grade. His mother is a visiting scholar at the university. This is his first time to live in America. Barron also recently completed 5th grade, but this was his second year since he repeated the grade. He is a Syrian refugee and has lived in town for 2 years. Katie is 10 years old and has lived in town since preschool. She lived in Malaysia prior to that. Susan was born in Mountain Town and her parents are from Mexico. She recently completed the 6th grade. Lisa is a Korean American going into the 4th grade. And May is a Hebrew-speaking 4th grader whose mother is Jewish. Aaron, also a rising 4th grader, is half Chinese American. The focus group context will be an after-school art class. The class will be focused on cultural stories from their immigrant or ancestral roots. For example, Billy will choose a tale from China. Susan will choose a Mexican folk story. They will illustrate the stories using mixed media over several weeks or months. Since all of these children attend school together and are familiar with one another, the group composition should be comfortable and conducive to generating genuine discussion. As they produce art, they will learn about their own culture as well as about the other cultures represented in the class. Data will be collected via interviews and observations. The group will meet once a week after school at my home studio for 6 months. During the art class activities, semi-structured and unstructured interviews will be conducted. Focus groups will be audio taped or videotaped for analysis. Individual interviews and family activities will also be observed and assessed for each student. For example, if a family cooks ethnic foods or attends a cultural event, that will be observed and recorded. Some of the kinds of data that will be addressed are: how do students and their families assimilate to the local culture in which they live in? How does the school support or hinder their cultural identities? How does the community support or hinder their cultural identities? Why do some students retain more of their cultural identities than others? In what ways have they maintained these cultural identities? How are the students viewed in their communities? How can the community, parents, and educators provide ways for students to engage in cultural activities, language, and the arts? As these participants are interviewed by a moderator and dialogue about their family culture within the culture of the town, insights can be made to improve and encourage the significance and value of their cultural heritage. Maximum variation will be achieved due to the diversity represented by the sample selection, which will help establish validity and reliability. In turn, I would like to use the data set to create a participatory action research project by hosting an art exhibit showcasing the children's artwork and involving the children's families at the end of the semester. The exhibit will be open to the community and include an interactive art project, such as painting a mural or creating an interactive journal together. I hope to learn how educators, families, and the community at large can come together to increase awareness and promote the identity of multiculturalism in Mountain Town. The project would generate excitement and pride among the participants of their cultural heritage as well as within their community. The interactive and collaborative art project would also give a sense of ownership and onus on the town to create a place and space for inclusion of the outsider population. Art is a unifier in that it speaks no one language, nor does it favor a single color. As dominant members of the community view and create art together with outsiders, they will learn about their cultures and identities. Multicultural growth and ethnic diversity are inevitable. My desire is that the town and its outsiders can beautifully coexist in a way that mutually edifies, equalizes, and that individual outsiders will embrace their cultural and ethnic differences rather than abandon them.